10 Ancient Origins of Everyday Things We Use. At the point when individuals consider antiquated civic establishments, an absence of innovative progression and a crude way of life are normally the main things that ring a bell. Notwithstanding, huge numbers of the regular things that we underestimate were really imagined sometime in the past. Here are 10 things which were first idea of hundreds or thousands of years previously. Number 1. Our system for measuring time. At some point in the early 2,000 years BC, the Babylonians concocted their number framework, and its impact actually influences us right up till today. In light of the restricted measure of images, they just had 2, alongside their pointer for 0, they needed to advance, making a framework where one segment showed products of 1, one segment demonstrated products of 60, and one section showed products of 3,600. These sections were just isolated by a little space, so meticulousness was significant. When they had their number framework set up, the Babylonians started applying it to different parts of their life, for example, the quantity of degrees all around and the quantity of days in a year. Since their framework was a lot simpler to compute and isolate, the Babylonian numbers ruled over those of different countries, remaining the supported framework for cosmologists up to the 16th century. In the long run, on account of its detachability, the base 60 framework was applied to the idea of time, giving us the quantity of minutes in an hour and the quantity of seconds in a moment. Number 2. Sports bra. Known as an apodesmus and made by the Old Greeks, a tight band of material was initially worn by ladies who partook in games. Put over the bosoms, it would limit their development, making sports somewhat simpler. For the hotshots in the public eye, it very well may be worn underneath the bosoms, underlining them like a wonder bra. What's more, the apodesmus was substantially more pervasive in city-states which advanced ladies' games, similar to Sparta. Another bit of material known as a strophion could be worn over the garments, giving a similar sort of help as an apodesmus. The two articles of clothing were regularly made of fleece or material, and they were normally tied or stuck in the back. Different sculptures have been discovered portraying the goddess Aphrodite wearing an apodesmus, persuading that more slender variants may have had a sexual undertone. Number 3. Breath mints. In spite of the fact that they were answerable for various incredible innovations and works, including papyrus sheets and the Great Pyramids, dental cleanliness avoided the Egyptians. Confronted with the smell coming about because of bacterial development and tooth rot, they built up the main breath mints, a combination of different fixings, including frankincense and cinnamon, which was then bubbled in nectar and molded likewise. First referenced in the Ebers Papyrus, a 16th century BC record, various plans for kyphi, the Greek record of the Egyptian word for their incense, have been found. Utilized in strict functions just as for therapeutic reasons, the plans for kyphi typically shared various things practically speaking, particularly wine, nectar, and raisins. Lamentably, a couple of them have recorded fixings which we have been not able to accurately distinguish. Number 4. Parachutes. While numerous individuals erroneously trait the development of the parachute to Leonardo da Vinci, it was really the antiquated Chinese who concocted the thought. As far back as the primary century BC, put-down accounts detail the adventures of Emperor Shun, a man who lived more than 4,000 years prior. In these books, history specialists detail how he had to the top of a tall structure by his dad, who planned to execute him by consuming the structure underneath him. Snatching a couple of bamboo caps, Shun gradually slipped to the ground, laying the system for utilizing wind protection from moderate fall. Later stories talk about criminals getting away their future jailers by jumping off tall structures and, as ahead of schedule as 200 BC, Chinese gymnastic performers were utilizing parachute-like gear to engage the honorability, over 1,700 years before Da Vinci's alleged creation. Number 5. Popcorn. While they didn't in fact concoct popcorn, it was the Aztecs who coincidentally acquainted popcorn with the world because of the Spanish intrusion. At the point when Columbus initially collaborated with the Arawak clan, he was given a popcorn corsage. Accepted to be a vital segment in the establishment of their domain, popcorn assumed an enormous function in Aztec culture. It was frequently made into pieces of jewelry or crowns, and it was normally used to improve strict sculptures. One Aztec custom included tossing an entire ear of unpopped popcorn into a fire as a penance to the divine beings. They alluded to the portions which came out as hailstones. Some archaeologists accept that popcorn was really the main type of corn ever developed, with proof of its reality dating to the Anasazi clan of Utah, who emerged around 350 BC utilizing seed choice, a horticultural cycle to decide the most advantageous future yield. Native Americans are thought to have built up the harvest just about 5,000 years back. Number 6. Odometer. A valuable device for estimating separation voyaged, the odometer is accepted to have been concocted by an antiquated Roman named Vitruvius. Principally recognized as a modeler, he thought of the thought for what he called a hodometer in the main century BC. The word hodometer is gotten from the Greek words for weigh and measure. He expounded broadly on the plan, clarifying how a wheel with 400 teeth would be turned by a solitary toothed stuff appended to the primary wheel. A stone would then be dropped into a container, showing that a Roman mile had quite recently been voyaged. Notwithstanding, a few archaeologists keep up that such a plan would have been inconceivable for the Romans to really produce, given their freshness with metalworking. Indeed, even Leonardo da Vinci couldn't reproduce Vitruvius' creation. All the more as of late, Andrei Sleeswick, composing for Scientific American, revealed that he had the option to reproduce it effectively. Number 7. Postal Service. Assyria, a significant Semitic human progress which existed as a free district from 2500 BC to 900 BC, a time of almost 19 centuries, was liable for the production of the primary postal help on the planet. Different cases have been produced using China and Egypt, however they are not as solid as those we have for Assyria. No doubt made at some point during the reign of Shalmaneser III in the 9th century BC, the postal help used donkeys to ship letters between urban communities. The Greek antiquarian Xenophon expounded on Cyrus the Great, the head of the Persian Empire which controlled Assyria, and how, all through the domain, there was an assortment of dispatches who might ship letters to and fro between foreordained stations in every city. It was a handoff framework, empowering new messengers to take over at each stop. Certain letters would even be sent with voice couriers to guarantee that the tone of the essayist's words went over accurately. Number 8. Door lock. The most seasoned safeguarded entryway locks we have ever found have a place with the old Egyptians and go back to in any event 2000 BC. It's accepted, yet not demonstrated, that they existed significantly sooner than that. What isolates the Egyptian lock from later creations is the way that the entire thing was made out of wood, the key notwithstanding. Indeed, the fundamental thought for a lock, the pin tumbler, is as yet the most well-known sort utilized today. There was one minor distinction between their keys and our own, however. Theirs were almost a foot long, which made it a lot harder for would-be criminals to pick the locks. It's accepted that the Egyptians planned these intricate locks as an approach to monitor important things or spots of strict noteworthiness. A straightforward hook or jolt regularly got the job done, yet this new framework empowered spots to be cordoned off, making genuine safety officers superfluous. Additionally, the entryway must be bolted, or opened, from an external perspective, and a jolt was utilized to do the genuine locking. Number 9. Vending machine. Developed by the renowned hero of Alexandria, the world's first candy machine just had one nibble you could get, heavenly water. In Egypt during the main century, a 5 drachma coin, comparable to around $4.40 in US dollars today, would get you a limited quantity of conciliatory water for use in the sanctuaries. Essentially, a case had a space in which the individual would drop a coin. The coin would then hit a metal switch, which would act like a seesaw of sorts, moving the attachment away from the sacred water distributor. When the coin fell, the stream would be cut off. The requirement for this new development emerged in light of the fact that, as teacher of Greek and Roman investigations John Humphrey of the University of Calgary says, individuals were taking more holy water than they were paying for. However, because of Hero's consideration of others' innovations in his compositions, it's not generally clear in the event that he was the first to think of the thought. Ctesibius of Alexandria is presumably the following no doubt designer. Number 10. Freezer. Gotten from the Persian words for ice pit, a yakshal was a hill made of mud, ascending as high as 18 meters, 60 feet, off the ground. A pit up to 5,000 cubic meters, 175,000 cubic feet, in volume would then be burrowed underneath it. Utilizing a cycle known as evaporative cooling, wind would blow into the pit, cooling any water which was gotten or given up by dissolving ice. The ice itself was made in channels that stretched out behind the yakshals that were loaded up with water around evening time, when temperatures dipped under freezing. The ice that framed at the highest point of the diverts was then broken off and put into the yakshal. Known to the occupants of present-day Iran since as far back as the 17th century BC, These coolers are a lot bigger than those discovered farther west. Despite the fact that genuinely productive in their capacity to store ice, Yakshils immediately become undesirable when electric refrigeration was imagined. Current coolers likewise would in general create a lot of cleaner ice, as residue and different impurities would frequently enter the water in a Yakshil. This is most likely because of the way that they were typically made of block and mud. Like, share, subscribe to the video.